A handshake can be worth billions. But what happens when that simple gesture means something totally different to the person sitting across the table? We're about to dive into the high stakes and, let's be honest, often confusing world of global deal making. This is where understanding the unspoken rules can literally be the difference between a massive success and a complete failure.
Okay, picture this. You walk out of a meeting, you're flying high. Everyone was smiling, they were nodding along. You are sure that deal is in the bag. But then, crickets. The contract never arrives. Your emails just disappear into the void. It's an incredibly frustrating situation, and it's way more common than you think. So, what went wrong? Well, the answer is almost never what you expect it to be.
So often, the real problem and the solution lies in the invisible stuff, the hidden signals, the cultural codes that shape everything from how we build trust to how we think about deadlines. This list of 12 key principles, well, this is going to be our map for navigating these tricky waters and, more importantly, for closing deals that actually stick. Success in these situations starts long before you even get on a plane. So, our first section is called Know Before You Go. It's all about laying that essential groundwork for success before you even set foot in the room. First things first, you have got to do your homework. And I'm not just talking about learning how to say hello in another language. No, this is about digging deep into some really crucial norms. For example, how is authority viewed over there? Is it a top-down hierarchy, or is it all about group consensus? And how do people build trust? Is it based on personal connection, or is it all about proven results? Luckily, you don't have to guess. There are fantastic tools out there like GlobeSmart or the World Values Survey that can help you map all this out. And here's the good news. You don't have to figure all this out by yourself. Leveraging local allies, think of them as a cultural broker or just someone on your local team, is like having a secret weapon. They're your translator for all the unspoken rules. They can catch those subtle cues you'd miss and bridge the gaps in understanding that can absolutely make or break your entire deal. All right, let's move on. We've done our prep. Now it's time for the main event. This brings us to section 2, which is really the heart of the whole thing. Decode the dialogue. This is where the rubber meets the road, where you put all that homework into practice and start interpreting what's being said, and maybe more importantly, what isn't being said, right there in the moment. One of the biggest tripwires is simply the way people communicate. It all boils down to something called context. In low context cultures like Germany or the US, people are very direct. Words are taken at face value. What you hear is what you get. But in high context cultures, say Japan or the UAE, the real message is wrapped up in nuance, in body language, in the relationship itself. If you get this one wrong, your deal could be toast before you even know it. Next up, let's talk about time. If a meeting is at 9 a.m., does that mean 9 o'clock sharp, or is that more of a suggestion? In sequential cultures like Switzerland, time is linear. It's a resource you don't waste. Punctuality is respect. But in synchronous cultures, which you'll find in much of Latin America, time is way more fluid. Building the relationship might actually be more important than sticking to a rigid schedule. Understanding this difference can save you a world of frustration. Knowing who actually holds the power in the room is critical. There's a concept for this called power distance. In high power distance cultures like Korea or Saudi Arabia, there's deep respect for hierarchy. Decisions flow from the top, and you'll see clear deference to the most senior person there. On the flip side, in low power distance places like Denmark or Australia, things are way more informal. There's more of a flat team structure. Now, this is a huge one. Be so careful with the word no. See, in many cultures that really value harmony, saying no directly is considered blunt and rude. So instead, you're going to hear phrases like, that might be difficult, or the classic, we will think about it. The real answer, your no, is often hidden in the nonverbal cues. You got to learn to read the room. And that idea of avoiding a direct no leads right into our next point, how different cultures deal with conflict. In what are called tight cultures, like Singapore, there are very strong social norms, and harmony is king. Open conflict is a huge no-no. But then you have loose cultures, like New Zealand, where people are much more comfortable with open disagreement. They actually see it as a healthy part of finding the best solution. Finally, in this section, let's touch on emotion. That expressive negotiator from Italy who's raising their voice and using their hands, that's probably just passion, not anger. And what about your very quiet counterpart from Finland? They might seem reserved, but they're probably deeply engaged, not disinterested. The warning here is crystal clear. Do not project your own cultural ideas about emotion onto them. All right, we've navigated the conversation. Now it's time for the final crucial phase. Welcome to Section 3, Secure the Success. This is all about locking in that agreement and, just as importantly, building a partnership for the future. This is an absolutely critical distinction to understand. In relationship-first cultures, think China or Brazil, trust is built slowly, over meals, through personal conversations. You have to build that rapport before you can seriously talk business. But in task-first cultures, like the US or Germany, it's the other way around. Trust is built by proving you're competent and reliable through the work itself. You know what can kill a deal after everyone's already gone home? Ambiguity. So, clarification is your absolute best friend. Never assume everyone's on the same page. Politely but clearly recap every single key point. Then, put everything down in writing. And finally, get one last explicit confirmation from everybody. It feels a bit formal, but it will save you so many headaches down the road. And please, always remember this. This signed contract is often just the beginning of the journey, not the end. In so many parts of the world, a negotiation isn't just about one transaction. It's more like an audition for a long-term partnership. They are evaluating you just as much as they're evaluating your proposal. So the master skill, the thing that ties all of this together, is something experts call global dexterity. Now, this is not about being fake or abandoning who you are. Not at all. It's about being flexible enough to adjust your style. Maybe you dial back your humor a bit, or you ramp up the formality. You do this while still being your authentic self. It's a balancing act, for sure, but it's incredibly powerful. So there you have it. When you boil it all down, it's a simple but really powerful three-part framework. First, do your homework before you go. Second, decode the live interaction while you're there. And third, secure the deal in a way that builds a foundation for the future. These 12 principles we've covered were your roadmap. And these aren't just abstract academic ideas. They are practical, real-world tools that you can start using today to walk into any cross-cultural negotiation with way more confidence and ultimately achieve much greater success. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Thinking back on your own career, your own experiences, which one of these cultural cues might have tripped you up in the past? And more importantly, what's one thing you're going to do differently the next time you find yourself sitting at that global negotiating table?